Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jared Farrell. I'm a Senior Client Advisor with Global Reviews, and I would like to welcome you along to this session this morning where we are going to be talking about the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. Again, thank you very much for coming along. I believe that we will have a very interesting 30 minutes as I go through a new component that we have launched within the Global Reviews product suite, the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program, and it is something that we believe is very unique. Nobody else worldwide is offering it, and I'm very excited to be taking you through the program this morning and showing you some of the things that it can do. In order to get us started with regards to the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program, I wanted to talk a little bit about marketing strategy and the problems that are out there and essentially the solution that Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program gives to some of these problems. So going a little bit macro at the beginning with regards to marketing strategy, what you can see in front of you, many of you will recognize as the traditional pathway to purchase framework that you would maybe typically see with a retail brand or certainly a brand where their consumers have feet on the streets. The pathway to purchase framework in front of us talks about the out-of-store relationship that a consumer might have with a brand, where the brand is trying to create awareness and desire and build salience and trust. As the consumer moves closer to the store, that trust is then coupled with a learning and understanding of the product attributes and the different types of things which makes one product different from another product. So these are some of the more rational elements with regards to when consumers come to choose one product over another. It then moves to in-store and then finally at the point of purchase. So this pathway to purchase framework many of you will have seen before, and as I said, we move from emotional to rational. And the key question that I would like to raise is, where does online fit within this pathway to purchase? I'm not suggesting that there are no pathway to purchase frameworks out there for the online environment, but what I would like to consider is the role of online within the overall marketing strategy and really this integration of online and offline. With online and the pathway to purchase, things haven't really changed that much. We are still looking to prompt and persuade. However, things are different because in the offline version of feet on streets, proximity and the impact of proximity with regards to what we are trying to achieve from a communication point of view is very different to what we are trying to do when it comes to actually online and digital. For example, in an offline environment, we may be able to actually see the consumer. We know at what points we want to interact with them with touch points that communicate various different types of product attributes before they actually reach the cash register. So the couch to cash register relationship is probably much more easily visualized, and then we can also basically communicate on that basis too. However, when it comes to online, proximity is a different type of concept altogether. However, if we look at it on the basis of cognitive psychology and what the offline environment has in common with the online environment, proximity for online and offline both lead us to the same point within the decision-making journey, which is this point of consideration. Marketing and branding tells us that basically a consumer works from the basis of having a number of brands in their mind to then choosing one brand from this number of brands, this concept of repertoire through to final preference. So this idea of final preference exists for every product category and for every industry. However, for each individual different industry, the point of consideration or the point of preference may differ with regards to where it is on the pathway to purchase. For example, the pathway to purchase with most products begins with the brand trying to build brand awareness. So we're creating awareness to be top of mind, we're starting a conversation with the actual consumer, and then we're also giving them the emotional supports to trust us as a brand. As we move down the continuum of the pathway to purchase, we are still moving towards this point of buying. And at the point of buying, we're talking about conversation on a more rational basis and promoting product attributes. But take, for example, buying a car in comparison to buying a bar of chocolate. Buying a car would be a high-level purchase. A lot of the different types of strategies a consumer might use would be risk aversion strategies. So the idea being that when they actually come to buy the product, they feel good about the amount of money that they have spent on the type of product that they've actually chosen. Buying a bar of chocolate is a very different type of purchase, and it's much more likely to find an impulse type environment when buying a bar of chocolate, and the point of consideration is very, very different between the two different products. So knowing that there is a relationship between online and offline, because that's the way in which the consumer moves through the world today, and knowing that the point of consideration varies from industry to industry for different types of products, how can we create a model which works across multiple different types of products and industries? And then also, how would we possibly create a benchmark so that we would be able to measure the success of one brand within one industry against another brand in another industry? And ultimately, that is what we are doing through the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. And this is how we are doing it. We asked ourselves, what if we force the point of consideration and record everything the customer does beforehand? So, for example, what if we take 2,400 in-market consumers? We invite them into a conversation with us. We interview them. We ask them a number of pre-task questions where we ask them their perceptions about particular types of products in particular types of industries. We ask them what it might be that would drive them to choose one product over another. We then take them to a blank screen study. In this blank screen study, they're presented with a web page with nothing on it, and they're asked to basically go and complete a certain task. They may go to a search engine, they may go to a research site, they may go to an aggregator, depending on the type of industry and also the type of customer. We then invite them back into the interview. We ask them a number of other questions about their consumer behavior, about the actual purchase journey that they went through, the type of information that they found out, the type of devices that they used when they were actually doing the search. And then we asked them to put in a short list of brands that they would now consider having completed the search, and then finally to choose one preferred brand from their short list of brands. So there are two key things that are happening within this methodology which are fundamentally important to how we achieve what we want to achieve from the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program and offer clients information on the gaps that they currently have with regards to their consumers. The first one is that we're taking 2,400 in-market consumers, and they are consumers who are looking to purchase that particular product within 90 days. So they are in the active search mode. What's really important about that is if you do an omnibus survey or an opinion poll-based survey, your sample size will typically be about 1,000. If you take an individual industry, the number of people within that industry that are generally looking to purchase that product in that industry in the next 90 days is anywhere between 10% and 20%. So if we went for the 20% figure of a sample size of 1,000, only 200 of them would actually be within the active search stage. So what we deliver is 2,400 who are in the active search stage. That is a key component of what we are doing. We are taking out the clutter and the noise and asking questions only of those who are actively considering these products. The second thing that we do is we interview them on a monthly basis. We interview 200 people each month, which gives us a longitudinal aspect to the interview and then also allows us to look at the results on a calendar basis. So the first element is the sample that are used. That is crucially important. The second element is in market research. A lot of market research that is conducted quantitatively is on the basis of consumers' claimed behavior. Now we know that consumers aren't always brilliant at predicting or even reporting on their own behavior. And so that's why we wanted to introduce a component which gave us a 360-degree view of what consumers are doing. And that is what the blank screen test does. It is passive measurement, where we use cutting-edge technology which is downloaded onto the consumer's computer in their own home. It is a real-world methodology where the consumer is asked to complete a particular type of task in their own home. We are placing brands in the homes of in-market consumers all around the world. This passive technology then measures every link clicked, every keyword entered, every website visited. And then we can report on that layered with the data that we already have on the basis of their claimed consumer behavior and actually what brands they're choosing on the shortlist, ultimately through to preferred. So the methodology itself is key and is a very, very important part of how we deliver on the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. Within Global Reviews, what we do is we measure the customer experience using an end-to-end funnel-based approach. The Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program looks at the first two stages of this funnel. The discover stage, which is how easily can customers find you and how strongly is your attraction, to the consider phase, which is how effectively do you engage customers and help them match a product or service to their needs. As I mentioned, it's an end-to-end funnel-based approach, and ultimately what we want to and what we are delivering to our clients is the gaps of knowledge that they currently have with regards to their consumers and the consumer behavior. I mean, the greatest compliment, I believe, which has been paid to us is that where clients have recently come back and told us that we give them information on where they should spend their marketing budget rather than giving them reporting tools on how successful their marketing budget already was. So we are really looking at a strategic tool here with regards to helping our clients measure and manage the return on marketing investment. So we are Global Reviews. We are a leading international data analytics and advisory organization. Two key components that I'm going to talk about today are the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program, and then I'll mention the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program, but they would be the lead products that we would be talking about. We offer research on multiple types of platforms, and specifically online, desktop, and also mobile. We conduct our research with real market consumers, as I've discussed already. We use a lifelike methodology, and a key part of what we do is we set best practice standards across organizations internationally by benchmarking the performance of brands within each individual industry. So a client who's working with us, we would be able to tell them how they are performing against other brands within their industry. But we can also take results from other industries and make recommendations to our clients based on what's working for other clients or other brands in other industries. And that is a key element of what we're able to do. The Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program then, for this particular session this morning, you would have received an invitation which said that we were going to talk about maximizing your marketing budget based on detailed evidence. We're going to talk about giving you the evidence to build a business case for investing your budget in particular areas. We're going to help you optimize the effectiveness of your marketing strategies, and we're going to show you how in-market consumers research and make decisions about brands, its competitors, and products online. A really important part that we're going to talk about this morning is which discovery journeys deliver a more effective online conversion and digital marketing spend. And this goes back to this concept that I mentioned earlier on, where we are helping our clients fill the gaps of the consumer information that they don't have or that is missing. So, for example, I'm going to show you how we're giving back to you what Google has already taken away with regards to keyword searches and what keywords consumers are using to eventually end up on maybe a competitor's website rather than yours. We're going to look at understanding exactly how your brand is currently perceived in the marketplace by in-market consumers. So the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program, where does it fit in? If you remember, I discussed this concept of the point of consideration as a person moves from the short list or the repertoire of brands to choosing just one brand. Well, in our model, we call that the preferred point, or the point of final preference. So it's this one brand that I choose of the other brands that I have within my shortlist. The shortlist itself will be based on the knowledge that the person who completed the interview had before they completed the interview, but it will also be informed by an active research stage that they have completed when they came online and they completed our blank screen study. That blank screen study will have taken them to certain websites, and we are able to measure whether they visited your website or whether they visit a competitor's website. And before they complete the blank screen study, if you remember, I talked about measuring the perceptions that people have before they complete the study, so that it is not in any way prompted by the research itself, and we can also use it as a basis for A/B testing to establish, well, what do they think of the brand before they complete some research, and then what do they think of the brand after they complete the research, and how is that driving them through shortlist to the final preferred brand. So this recall is essentially, we look at the perceptions of different types of brands, but in this particular part here, this recall is the unprompted brand recall, or unprompted brand awareness. There are a number of examples on the screen in front of you, from brand A through to brand D. This is for a particular industry in the UK, and what we can see is that the market leader has an unprompted brand recall score of 82%, which is very strong. Brand C and brand D aren't scoring quite as well. In front of you, what we have is a funnel-based approach to measuring conversion from recall through to visited, shortlist, and preferred. And essentially, this is a diagnostic which helps us to measure how the brand is performing in converting the marketing budget from one step through to another, and ultimately driving the consumer to the final finish line, which is choosing your brand above anybody else's brand. So looking at the funnels that we have in front of us, what can we learn? We can see here that for brand B and brand D, there is a difference with regards to how the numbers are moving from the recall through to visited. And so if we take brand A and we say that the 82% for brand A with regards to prompted recall is reflective of the amount of money that they're spending in marketing, because in order to drive top of mind scores or share of voice, that really is done on the basis of large brand budgets. So brand A is the largest spender, followed by brand B. We can see that brand A's conversion then through from recall to people who actually visited their site goes down to around 50%, and yet it comes back up again down to 64%, because not everybody will feel like that they need to go and visit the website of brand A, because they already know the website and they know the brand well enough that they'll still shortlist them. However, brand B is a very different thing going on. Brand B is also spending quite a bit of money with regards to the marketing budget. Their recall is quite high, but nobody's visiting their website. There's something happening here where you have a massive drop in the amount of people who are actually making it to their website and making a decision. But over regards to brand D, we can see that the brand recall is low, but there are more people visiting the brand website than there are those who actually recalled the site or the brand before they started the research. So what that is telling us, that between the recall and the visited stage, something is happening where people are being pushed or prompted to move in the direction of the actual brand's website. And what that is potentially the keyword searches and the search engine optimization. It could also be, depending on the market, the strength of the aggregator website, or it could also be based on third-party research sites or recommendation third-party sites where people are learning about brands and moving in one direction rather than another. But ultimately, what this funnel-based approach will tell us, and there's a number of things it will tell us, but at this point, what I'd like to focus on is, if we say that we know that the unprompted recall score is essentially a reflection of how much money they're spending in marketing budget, we're then able to establish whether that marketing budget is translating through to the digital strategy, driving people to visit the website, and ultimately then getting them to put you on the shortlist. So one of the key elements then with regards to understanding anything in market research is, if we are a brand and we want to target the whole entire market of people who could potentially buy our product, cars, for example, then we may end up actually being a brand to everybody, but not really anybody. So the idea is in marketing and in market research, we segment, we create context, we look at different ways that we can be meaningful to niche groups or target audiences. So thinking about the funnel that we had on the previous slide, we can also then create demographic profiles of various different groups within the overall program. And if you remember, we were talking about sample sizes of 2,400, which is massive sample sizes and certainly adequate from the robustness point of view of pulling out statistically representative samples. Within our demographic, psychographic and lifestyle stage type segmentation, we have a number of different types of questions that we ask. So we asked obviously about gender. We have the mean age that I'm showing here, but we also have the distribution of age within our interviewing. We also have mean income and the distribution of income within our interviewing. We look at the time spent researching. So that's literally high involvement good might be 6 months, whereas a much, much lower good could only be a matter of hours. But we look at how long did that process actually take, over what period of time. We look at the family breakdown with regards to the household. Are they single with no children? Are they empty nesters, or are they family? And then finally, with regards to this time spent researching, we also look at the actual active duration for researching. So for example, 4.6 hours researching out of the total entire period which they took to complete the research, which may have been up to 4 weeks. So this, I'm going to focus on this time spent researching just for a moment, because as we move then from the recall through to the visited, one of the key things which will drive consumers to choose one product or brand over another is the touch points and influencers that they come into contact with during that actual pathway. One of the key things that we can measure is this concept of search pathways, and so which discovery journeys deliver a more effective online conversion. Talking about sports betting in the UK, we can look at how many of those people in the blank screen study actually looked at a search engine, how many of those used a brand website. We can look at the multiple pathways. So did they move from a search engine to a brand, or did they move from a search engine to a research site? We can look at the different types of combinations that are driving consumers to a particular type of competitors or to your own website. We can look at the industry words that were also used within sports betting, and we can see what it is that's driving the keywords within this particular industry. So for example, for sports betting, we can see that brand is very, very important, with it taking up 4 of the top 5 spots, and online betting coming in on 3rd place. The next generic term that's coming in doesn't come in until much later with betting websites. We can look at the proportional breakdown between organic and paid, and which is driving the actual industry and the consumer searches. So that's very helpful, but we want to get down to a brand level as well. So looking at an example of the health insurance industry in Ireland, these are the different domains that were visited by consumers from VHI through to Glow Health, Leia, and then also the Health Insurance Authority. We can see the proportional breakdown between organic and paid with regards to what consumers were searching. But it would be much more interesting to know what actual keywords were driving consumers from one site to the next. And we can do that. And maybe you have that already for your own brand, but you don't have it for your competitor's brand, because that is what Google took away, that we are giving back. If you want to target the target demographic of switchers of a particular brand who is a competitor of yours, we are able to arm you with the keywords that those people are using that is taking them to your competitor's website. We are able to further build out a picture with regards to who these people are, the amount of money that they're earning, their household type, and then also how long it's taking them to search. Before we completed the blank screen test, one of the things that we asked them about is, at this point, with the brands that you think of top of mind, which ones do you prefer? We call this the first preference. It's before they completed the blank screen test. And then at the end of the journey, the point of consideration, we asked them about their last preference or second preference. We're able to measure how people have moved from first preference through to second preference. And we also ask at first preference, why do you prefer this brand? And so, for example, here we're looking at the banking industry in Australia, and we can see that I'm familiar with their names, comes in first place with regards to first preference. They have good prices and offers. They give me plenty of options to choose from as the third preference. The website helped me compare options is the fourth reason. And then I saw them when I used the search engine. If we compare that then with how things change when it comes to second preference, we can see that I'm familiar with their names and that they have good prices and offers are the most important reasons, and they do not change. What does change, however, is the importance of the website and the importance of flexibility with regards to providing offers to consumers. So that they look easy to use becomes the fourth reason for preference, and then the fifth reason is that they give me plenty of options to choose from. In front of you now you have a large table. I don't want to go through all of the various different elements of this table, but what I would like to highlight is the options on the left-hand side are essentially the different types of things that we measure with regards to the reason why a person may have chosen a brand for their final preference. The numbers in the middle or on the right-hand side for brands A, B, C, and D are index scores. And essentially these are those who preferred brand A indexed against the general sample. And essentially this tells us the reason why they chose this brand over the general sample. So if I am brand A, I can see that people didn't choose me because my website helped them to compare options, nor that my website helped them find their options quickly. And this is helpful for being able to understand the reasons why people are actually choosing me at the moment. So for brand A, it's much more about relationship. Whereas if we look at brand D, we can see that it's actually not about relationship at all. And the fact that someone recommended them to you is not as important either. So ultimately, I am brand A, but I would like to take some customers from one of my competitors, but I want to understand what it is that's actually driving certain consumers to my competitors. What do I need to be able to say about myself, or what type of features do I need to be able to display in order to attract the consumers who are moving to my competitors? And that essentially is the type of thing that we can do when looking at first preference to second preference and the type of product offers that are available. So taking it at a much wider level, for the banks in Australia, again, we can see that for National Australia Bank, relationship is what's driving consumers to this brand. Whereas for Westpac and Bank West, it's more about product. And then Bank West themselves are the ones who are performing the best on the basis of relationship. These all help with regards to targeting strategies, understanding how consumers are moving, and identifying the low-hanging fruit and what you need to say about yourself in order to attract those low-hanging fruit to you. The slide in front of you is a hierarchy of the types of things that a person said that they wanted from a brand in order for them to choose them for final preference. This is a 5-point score. I am only showing the top 2 on the top box scores. But essentially we can establish the why they chose to go with one over another. And why that's very interesting is because if marketing and the marketing budget is all about getting my brand in their mind, establishing a communication and a relationship that they trust me, we move all the way through to the point of the shortlist. I am on the shortlist. I'm doing great. There are 2 other brands on this shortlist with me. I have invested a certain amount of money to get onto the shortlist. That I am on the shortlist is a success. However, if you are not the brand chosen from the shortlist for the final preferred brand, then you're losing out. You're losing out to 2 others, and you're being compared directly to 2 others, and for some reason they have decided to choose somebody else over you. That's what we call the lost opportunity as the consumers move from shortlist to preference. We can identify who shortlisted you, and we can also identify ultimately what brands they decided to go to in the end if they didn't choose you. Demographically, we can also identify the consumer so that we can help with regards to understanding the type of lifestyle that they may have and the reasons why they may not have chosen you in the end. We can help with regards to identifying the lost opportunities and reversing that trend of losing out on the effectiveness of the marketing budget as you hit that kind of key moment of shortlist but not converting through to final preference. Other elements that are important with regards to how we can reduce lost opportunities and increase sales is to look at the use of different types of resources when it comes to touch points or delivering a service to consumers. The example in front of us is the insurance industry, and what it can show us is that how consumers are purchasing different types of products and what level of support they require both online and offline with regards to getting them over the line. Different types of brands have different types of targets. Some of them may be older, some of them may be younger, and those different types of demographics will require different levels of resources. So to give you an example, we can see that brand A here has 44% who said that they would like to use the site to find the right policy and to purchase through the site. Whereas in brand B, we can see that this number drops because a much higher proportion would like to use the site to find the right policy but would prefer to get a quote through another channel, either face-to-face in a branch or on the phone. As brands look to increase their business and potentially take customers who are moving or switching from one brand to another, we can investigate the different types of implications of introducing new resources or needing to leverage support resources to help the consumer move over from one brand to another. We can take that one step further and we can go deeper with regards to looking at the type of things that consumers require from a support point of view to help them over the line in that final decision. So on screen, for example, we have broken and segmented our sample on the basis of general and young families who have children under the age of 6. Our hypothesis is that we potentially as a brand would like to bring in the concept of online chat for the younger families, and we think that that would be a key driver for them to choose us over a competitor. However, when we look at those who are currently choosing us, we can see that the one thing that they really don't want is they don't want an online chat session with us. So we need to weigh up the balance of what do we believe we can achieve in bringing in the new younger families and what kind of conversion ratio we can expect, knowing that those who are currently preferring us already don't want online chat sessions. So essentially we're looking at the measurement of the different types of resources we can provide and the financial impact that will have from a return on investment point of view. Some of the things that we spoke about this morning. We spoke about maximizing your marketing budget based on detailed evidence. We spoke about giving the evidence to build business cases for investing your budget in particular areas. We talked about optimizing the effectiveness of your marketing strategies, how in-market consumers research and make decisions about a brand, its product, and its competitors online. We talked about discovery journeys and taught the Google element with regards to keyword search and looking at how consumers are moving to your competitor brands and how you can target them to bring them back. We looked at understanding how your brand is currently perceived in the marketplace, again, by in-market consumers. I didn't talk about recall of advertising and promotions. I didn't talk about the types of aggregators used and the reasons why. I didn't talk about the types of search engines used and the reasons why. But these are all components that we can offer in the Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program. We also looked at multiple pathways that the consumer may have taken from search to aggregator and aggregator through to brand. We can also look at the percentage of research online by type of device, whether it be smartphone, tablet, or desktop. I didn't talk about when researching where do they prefer to receive a quote and when do they prefer to receive a quote. So this element with regards to over the phone or on the website and at what point in the journey. Is it when they first reach the website and they want to select on the basis of quotation, or do they want to do research, choose a product and then get quotation afterwards? We also know if they are a current customer and who they're a current customer with, and as I mentioned, who they're a current customer with. We talked about measuring the customer experience. The Digital Marketing Effectiveness Program looks at the discover and the consider phase. The next step in the program in this end-to-end funnel is the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program, which is a key component of what we offer and also continues the journey with regards to measuring the customer experience and why the customer ultimately will choose you over your competitors. The Digital Sales Effectiveness Program identifies the issues experienced by 95% of consumers who are looking to purchase from you. And it enables us to benchmark the performance of your brand within the marketplace and against the competitive landscape. We can tell you why some customers abandon the purchase journey on your website and purchase with a competitor. I'm not going to be talking about the digital sales effectiveness this morning, but it is a key component of what we offer, and I highly recommend that you come back and have a look at the Digital Sales Effectiveness Program when we're next talking about that. My name is Gerard Farrell. I'm a Senior Client Advisor at Global Reviews. You can contact me with the email address on the screen. In Global Reviews, we believe that we do three things exceptionally well. We provide unique insights to inform digital strategy. We provide data and intelligence that leads to optimum online sales effectiveness, and we provide expert advice and consultation. We do this in many different industry verticals, including banking and finance, insurance, energy, travel, retail, telecommunications, online sports betting, multiple areas. So if you have any questions, please email me or you can visit our website, globalreviews.com. Thank you very much for coming along this morning, and I hope you enjoyed the session.